Hey y'all, it's Naya and I will be giving you everything I have on the artistry of acrylic nails. In this volume, volume 3, we will be covering shaping and filing. Alright, you made it to shaping and filing. So again, I'm going to show you how to file with the hand file and file with the e-file. Both can work, both are completely up to you and your discretion, but I want to give you the option. I don't want to just teach you one way and leave you to rely completely on that. So for starters, we have some different nail bits. The parts that go in your nail drill or your e-file are called bits. I personally like to use safety bits on clients. Safety bits is anything that has this domed top on the bit, okay? A comparison is the straight edge bits that don't have a domed top. This can cut all the way around because there's nail teeth all the way up the shaft of this nail bit, okay? I prefer to use domed because accidents happen. You're human, you're not a robot. You aren't programmed to do this. So things may happen. You may spin out of control or you may get too close and cut. So I prefer to use domed bits. Now, with dome bits, we also have what we call a tornado bit. These bits are carbide bits. Carbide bits are any of the metal bits. You have a carbide bit, you have sanding band, which we use to prep, and then you have diamond bits. Diamond bits are used for cuticle work. You can get really, really close. The cut of these are very, very fine, and they won't cut your client. And when I say the cut, I mean the way that the diamonds or the metal is positioned on this nail bit. This is for cuticle work. You don't really use this on acrylic. Okay, this tornado bit, has kind of a domed on the top where you can get very, very close to the skin without cutting. Okay, depending on how much fixing you need to do will depend on the grit that you'll use for your e-file. I personally use either a fine or a medium bit. Coarse and extra coarse, when you start getting into the 5 times extra coarse, so 5XC, those are used for soak-offs. When you need to file a lot of bulk down, a lot of acrylic down, and then you're going to soak that nail, you need to use like a 4XC, 5XC. When you're just refining some acrylic work and you are, just fixing some little imperfections, you don't have to use a super, super coarse, extra coarse bit. It's just unnecessary. So for this demonstration in particular, I'm going to use my fine tornado bit. These can be purchased off of Amazon, and they are the Pana bits. I like them a lot. They last a pretty good while. And from there, I'm going to go in with my e-file. I'm going to take out this sanding band. I'm pretty much done using that. And I'm going to put my bit in. I like to leave a little bit of space. Some people put theirs like all the way down, and that's just like a little bit hard for me to maneuver. I like to have a little bit of space between the end of my bit and then where it starts, where the actual e-file starts. So I've locked it and it's ready to go. Before I begin, I'm going to take off the nail form on this nail. You're going to pinch the sides off to release that acrylic. And it is a sticker, so, beware. And it might give you a little bit of resistance. But that's completely wiggled off. And I'm going to just take the sticker off. And this goes in the trash. Can't reuse it. So that is the rough of our form nail. And like I said here, something like this, you could just break that off, or you can clip it off with your nail clipper. So I personally like to start with my nail file, and I like to release the sides of the nail from the skin. So I just take my nail and I push it with my nail file to release those sides on each and every nail. Even with the nail form. And I like to go in with my 100 side. This is that coarse side, remember? And I just do a few strokes just to kind of get my shape framed out. I'm not shaping right now. I'm just kind of getting the shape framed out. Separating those sides on each nail. And then we're going to start filing. So I take my bit and I'm going to do 2 nails with the e-file and 3 nails hand filing. I personally feel like with this portion of the nail, the e-file can really be a dangerous game. So I want to give you a little more practice with the hand file, and then when you're comfortable, you can move into the e-file. So I'm going to e-file 2 nails. I'm going to do the pinky and the index finger. I'm going to do the index or the pointer finger because it's a little more bulky because of the nail form situation. So those 2, and then the rest I'll do my hand filing. So I start off with a pretty low speed, and then I work my way up as I get more comfortable throughout the nail. When you're doing that cuticle, you really want to go slow because remember, it's skin right there. It can flesh. It's too much situation that can be bad. So start slow in that area. So holding my e-file, remembering to use my pinky as a balance. I go around that cuticle area, and with this bit, you can get pretty close. I file this nail so that that cuticle area gets flush. Once that cuticle area is where you want it to be, I turn it up and I start working on the rest of my nail. I like to go a combination of up and down and side and side. I'm not really going up and down with my drill, but I'm going up and down, like that type of motion. Or resting this finger underneath so that you have control, and these 2 fingers as a protection wall in case you were to like spin out, you would hit yourself versus hitting your client. I can go side to side. With the side to side, it's a little bit of a dangerous game when you're going super fast because that's how you get the spin out situation, and you like can potentially cut like the underside of your client, especially when you're doing something like a soak off and you're using a 5XC bit that's super coarse. So I'm just going in. I like the tip of my nail to be the thickness between 1 and 2 credit cards. So think about the thickness of a credit card and pick between that type of thickness, especially with longer nails. Your structure is in your apex, not in the tip of the nail. So the tip of the nail does not need to be super thick and bulky. Again, I don't go for a very dramatic look when it comes to my apex and my nails in general. So I try to make sure that when I'm looking at the nail, I'm not just looking at the nail from up and down. I'm looking at my nail from the side of the nail, and I'm looking at the nail from a front point of view. Because when you look from this way, you're able to see, oh, the left side is a bit higher than the right. I've used too much acrylic on that side. Or from the side, well, my apex looks really nice, but on this nail, it doesn't look quite nice. So look from so many different angles. Like literally, turn your client's hand if you need to. Look from all different angles because you're trying to give them the best set that you can put out. And you can't do that by just looking at the nail like this. So I'm going to continue on. And with this nail, I'm actually pretty happy with where it is right now. Again, I told you all, with that application, you're trying to get things as nice as you can. You really won't have to do much filing. And that's kind of how I'm feeling here. That's the side profile of that nail. And I'm actually pretty happy with that. So I'll hit my tip a little bit more. And then I tell you all, when you're thinking of your shape, think about what you see when you first look down. You're looking at this portion of your nail, okay? That is what you're going to see before you see the sides of your nail. So you're going to see this portion. Let me scratch it so that you can see. This portion and this portion of your nail before you see the sides. So make sure that you spend time debulking these areas so that your shape on the side looks really nice. And a lot of people, you don't think about that. You don't think about, yeah, you will see the bulkiness of that before you see the bulkiness of the sides of the nail. So be sure that is a part of your routine when you're shaping. And feel free to switch out your bits. If you feel like you need a more coarse bit, or you want to use a specific cuticle bit, use them. You don't have to have the same bit in your file the whole time. So I'm going to move on from there, and I'm going to move into our index finger. But before I do that, let's clean some dust. And we're gonna move to the index. So in the cuticle area, as you can see, this nail needs more work in the cuticle area. So I'm going to start with the cuticle area again. And I have this bit so close to that skin right there because it is that type of safety bit. We call those rounded off bits at the top safety bits because they are a bit safer than the other ones. They literally can cut you so bad. So be very careful when using any e-file on a client, but those straight edge ones especially. So I'm around the cuticle. And you want to be very, very mindful of burning, especially when you're doing acrylic because you can get so carried away. See, when you're prepping, you won't be filing that much, but with acrylic, you're doing a lot of filing with the e-file. So be mindful of staying in one area. Your e-file should constantly be moving, constantly be moving, constantly be moving. Because when you're staying in one area and you're obsessing over this one area and you keep going over, you run the risk of potentially burning your client. So I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit so that I can work a bit faster, and making sure to protect the sides of my client's finger. I'm going to do my up and down motion. So I'm doing this up and down motion. I'm going to go to the tip of the nail, so I'm going to start doing some side to side motions. And occasionally I'm looking from the side angle to see, what more could I fix here? When you have this e-file up high like this, things are moving quick. Acrylic is being cut down super quick, so you need to make sure you're constantly checking because one wrong move and you've taken off too much acrylic and now you got to go put an extra bead and it's not a very fun situation. So when you're starting to get close to what you want, turn it down. So I've turned mine down because I can see I'm kind of getting close to where I would want things to be. And I'm debulking that top point of view. And with this dust situation, you can always invest in a dust collector if you want to. I personally don't do nails anymore frequently, so a dust collector to me wasn't the best investment. But if you're somebody who takes a lot of clients and you're dealing with a very, very dusty situation, you might want to get you a dust collector. And those can be bought from Amazon. Valentino is one of the most popular brands that sell dust collectors. So definitely consider getting yourself one if you're like super, super annoyed with the dust. So on this nail, I'm going to leave things here and I'm going to move into my hand filing, and then I'm going to compare all the nails together and see if I need to file more. But I'll prefer to less is more right now and just go on and see how I feel about things. So with my filing with the e-file, I like to start at the cuticle area and I like to use my less coarse side. So at this cuticle area, I am going just in one direction motion because you can't really do a lot of this near the cuticle area if you're trying to be mindful of the client's skin. Of course you can, but I'm trying to be really, really mindful of her skin here. So I'm being very gentle and I'm going in one direction. And once I get down to the body of the nail, I don't have to use that less coarse side, and I can turn things up and use that 100 side. So now I'm on the 100 side. I am firmly holding her nail. If you just have like her finger back here and her nail is experiencing so much force and pressure, and it's not a fun situation, especially the day after when your nails are super sore from getting your nails done, especially if you have a nail tech that does a lot of hand filing. So try to absorb as much of that as you can as the nail tech. So now since I'm on the body of her nail, I am going back and forth. I'm moving pretty quick. I'm trying to look at different angles to see, where can I fix things? I feel like her cuticles could be a little more flush. I prefer to hit the cuticles now that I'm very comfortable with the e-file. With the e-file, it just, you may hear people talking about like sealing the cuticles. That can be done with the hand file. And I don't even want to say it's necessarily sealing the cuticles because your acrylic is sealed in with your application. You don't need a hand file or e-file to do that for you. But getting that cuticle area nice and clean can definitely be done with a hand file. And I have done it for years and years, so don't worry. So I'm just trying to get these sides nice and smooth. I'm kind of laying the framework for my shaping later on. So trying to make sure that I have a nice smooth canvas to work with definitely helps out. And a clean canvas. So I'm doing this motion right here to clean up some of the acrylic that had gathered in this area here. I want to make sure that I have that nice U shape for the cuticle area. So just going around and making sure I do have a U shape and I don't have any, acrylic that is kind of built up and is interfering with that. Clean that up if you can. So right now I'm going to leave this nail where it is. I like the way my apex is looking in this nail, so I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to move on to my stiletto nail. So again, same process. And with the thumb, we'll actually do partially hand file, partially e-file, so we can have an even mix of both. So I am just going around that cuticle area again. I'm making sure to debulk these sides here. Stiletto is a shape that can easily make your nails look Mike Wazowski-ish. So you want to try to get those sides not looking so claw-like, especially if it's a shorter stiletto. Short stiletto can really look like chicken feet. So try to, file the sides of this nail down, and then when you get your shape in, you have a really nice clean stiletto look. So I'm gonna really focus my attention on those side areas with my hand file. Again, this can be done with an e-file, but it's definitely doable. So one direction. I'm gonna have a dust clean in a little bit, so clean up some of this dust off our hands so I can see my canvas. And when you're doing this process, I don't have a mask on now, but feel free to wear like surgical mask or filtered mask and things like that. Years and years and years, I can only imagine breathing this stuff in does not have any good effects for you or for me. So please feel free. Use a nice mask, having a good ventilation system because acrylic is a smelly liquid. Ventilation for your dust as well. Investing in these types of things can help keep you in the industry a bit longer, especially when you're using like a hand file for extended period of time. Think about things like carpal tunnel. You want to be mindful that you're taking care of your body. So wearing wrist compressors or wrist braces, taking care of your body while you're in the nail industry will definitely help you in the long run and isn't going to hurt you in any way. So just be mindful of that, wearing masks and wearing things to protect your body and your health throughout your journey in the nail world. So I'm nearly where I want to be with this nail. Again, like I taught you in the first volume, be sure to talk to your client. Ask them, are you comfortable? Is this hurting you? Am I being too rough? Because you're not on the receiving end. So just be mindful that you are working on a human. Unless you are working on a practice hand, then that's a bit different. But keep that in mind. So I'm looking at this nail from our side angle, and I'm happy with where it is. So I'm going to leave here. I'm going to come back to that nail to give a comparison to all three, but now we're on our thumbnail. So I'm going to start on our thumbnail with the e-file, and then I'll end with the hand file. So I'm going to turn our speed up a little bit. So that's a bit too loud. So I'm like, let's turn it down. Hear it out. Listen to your e-file. If you feel like it's probably too fast, turn it down, because you can always turn it up, but you can't do anything if you were to spin out of control and cut your client. So be mindful of that. I love how close you can get with this bit in particular, tornado bit. It allows you to get very close and get that cuticle nice and flush. Now I'm looking at this from the side point of view just to make sure that I am where I want to be. And I'm going to turn things up because I'm moving away from her skin. And you always, look at my pinky. You always are going to see my pinky stabilizing itself on something. Because I couldn't imagine just using a nail drill like this. It's just too like flimsy. You need to have some type of reinforcement while you're using this to make sure that you don't spin out or go too fast or anything like that. So I am picking my e-file up every single time I make contact with this nail. So I'm going to stop there because I want to do half and half. So this is kind of the foundation that we have now, and I'm going to solidify it with our hand file. But I'm going to clean some dust just to keep things nice and clean. Okay, so now we'll be completing with our hand file. So on the less coarse side, the 180 side, because I don't have much to do, I'm gonna go over. And when you're filing, you see how you have the scratches here and the scratches here, and then you have like subtle scratches here. That means that that area, I can see straight from here that that area is lower. If your nail file is meeting two areas before another, those two areas are higher. So that means that we need to be lowering those two, getting everything nice and smooth. And again, I'm holding her finger very firm because I don't want her to absorb so much of the filing that I'm doing on her nail right now. So I'm focusing on the tip of this nail because, like I said, I don't like my nails super, super thick at the top. There's no strength in the tip of your nail, so you don't need it super thick. And I'm going to look at this from the side point of view, from the front. And we're almost ready for shaping. So I'm really happy with where that is. So I'm going to look at the side point of view of these other ones. And this pointer finger, which I suspected, I need to take down the middle portion of it a little bit. So I'm going to go in. Oh, wait, I used the e-file. Let me use my e-file. On this portion, you have some areas where you may need to like go debulk a little bit, reduce a little bit. You can always do that with your e-file on a slower speed. So that's getting more into the territory where I would want it. Yep. And that is where I would want the thicknesses of those nails. So I'm going to go through and start shaping. And then if there's anything that I need to do after, I can do that. So with my shaping, I'm going to go to the 100 side, that more coarse side. And I'm going to start straight up and down on my pinky finger. I'm going to hit the side wall area. So this area here underneath, you see how we have a little bit of acrylic there? Pay attention to all that kind of stuff. These are like the details that matter. So be mindful that there is skin on the side. So making sure that you're not pressing into that skin because you can't cut with nail files. But make sure that you are cleaning everything up. Be your biggest critic during this time. So I'm looking at this nail. I'm filing with my nail flat against the edge, going straight up and down. If you may want your shape, you're struggling with your shape being crisp, you can always go up. So 80 by 80, that's a more coarse file. You can always file with that. But just think about, because it's more coarse, it does take acrylic much quicker. So you can lose a lot of your length much quicker, or your side walls. And they're just a bit sharper, so just be mindful of that. So right now I'm hitting the free edge of the nail, and the free edge of the nail extends past where that natural nail and that tip would meet if it were an acrylic nail. So I am filing that up and down, and I'm just getting this nice and crisp, and I'm gonna move on to my next. Again, we are getting underneath. We're cleaning up everything. We're making sure that these nails are nice and uniform as far as their cleanliness of the shape. So, and again, if you like, this way of filing doesn't work for me, you can always flip that hand and have that nail file coming straight towards you. For me, it's better to see if a nail is straight this way versus the other way. So I'm filing, I'm filing, I'm filing. This is our coffin nail, so I want to make sure that edge is nice and straight. And I can even file a bit this way if I need to. So we have a really nice free edge. And this is why in the beginning I said, don't obsess so much with your nail being super straight across the edge, because you have to file now. And imagine if you file then, and you file now. Ma'am, I asked for long nails and now I have mediums. So you have to, kind of play it by eye. Remember that you can't always do things during after your application portion, because you do still have your filing and shaping. So with this one, I'm holding the sides, and you must ask your client. Make sure you ask your client, do you like sharp stiletto, or do you like a more rounded off look? Or do you want an almond? Because those are like 3 different looks. I'm going to do a sharp stiletto. And this nail is pretty sharp, so I'm not going to go much further here. But I just want to make sure that the undersides of my sidewall areas are nice and clean like all the other ones. And then here, I'm going to do a square for this nail. So again, the undersides. There's a lot of potential for you to have underside stuff with your nail form, so just be mindful of that. And I am taking a lot of length off, so once you start getting into the territory of liking the shape, slow down. And I'm going to do this square like the pinky. So I have my free edge there, and I'm going to get my side walls where I want them. I go from filing on the side to filing the underneath of the side to make sure it's nice and uniform. So I'm just filing, I'm checking. For this nail in particular, I feel like I need to do a little more hand filing. And I'm going to, I think I'm going to stop my shaping there for those before I do one more thing. So let's file our thumbnail. This is our tapered square. That's kind of moving a little bit more into a wide coffin, but shaping is like so subjective to what you feel is a coffin or what you feel is a stiletto or things like that. So don't get so wrapped up in This is why I like to ask my clients for pictures, because I want to see exactly what you're looking for. Because what I might consider a coffin may not be what you consider a coffin, or what I consider a square to me is like, I would never do that shape because it's super bulky. So you gotta see. Seeing is believing. Seeing is what's gonna really make sure that you give your client exactly what they want, because that's what we're in. We're in the service industry to serve what our client needs and wants. So the thumbnail is a hard nail to file sometimes because you kind of can't see if it's crooked or not, and then you show your client is like, whoa, that's way off. So make sure that you're speaking to your client. Again, I keep saying, make sure you're talking to your client. Make sure they know that you're here to execute whatever looks they're going for. So the last thing that I like to do before I round up and finish my shaping, I like to go in with either an e-file or your hand file and hit the free edge of the nail, so that this nail is not so bulky at the tip. So I just want to make sure that these front area, when I say like the thickness not being anywhere between 1 and 2 credit cards, isn't too thick. I like to go on top, and I like to go underneath. So I'm going to go through with my finger underneath and just go side to side and thin that area out just to make sure it's right where I want it. And I'll also take my e-file underneath and just tap to make sure I clean up any acrylic that may be underneath there. Same with this. And you see how I just spun out? That can happen to your client. So be very, very cautious to protect the size of your client's nails, because spin outs are not any fun for your client. With your nail form, you really may not have to do it, but still just making sure that it's like uniform. You want to kind of go through underneath. But on top, yes, you will have to go on top and thin things out. And then for my thumbnail, because it's a little bit thicker, I'm going to take my feet up a little bit. So I'm just going around to make sure it's right where I want it to be. Now I just hit underneath, and then if I need to do anything, to fix, I do that before buffing. So I'm pretty happy with where that is. So I'm going to do the rest with my file. So again, I'm just going to hit these free edges one last time. Make sure my shape is exactly where I want it. That is perfect in my eye. This one is close to perfect in my eye. Let's just do a little bit more filing. This was our hand file nail, so my stiletto nail. We did so many different lengths and shapes and sizes, but I just wanted to make sure y'all saw the demonstration for what it would look like for, you know, me doing a stiletto nail or I'm doing a square nail. So and then last but certainly not least, we have our thumbnail. I'm going to hit the tops. And that is what we're looking like for that. So these are the shapes that we have going here in our thumbnail. From here, we're going to move right into buffing. And once you finish buffing, you are ready for a top coat. So when you're buffing, sometimes you may see your nail sets, you have like white extra acrylic there. It doesn't really look like acrylic though. It looks like white dust at the base of your nail set. That's because you didn't buff all of that flyaway acrylic away. When you're buffing, you want to get really, really, really close to that cuticle area. And this is a part of having those clean and neat cuticles. This buffer should not be hurting your client, but again, check. Are you comfortable? Are you okay? Am I being too rough? Get really close to that cuticle area when you're doing this step to get any of that potential acrylic off of there. Sometimes you may even have a little bit of acrylic on the skin, so you can lightly buff that off because we did have a little bit here. And remember, if you ever have a client that is asking for like a rounded off shape, before you completely round it off with your nail file, buffers do take away some of your sharp shaping. So if you need to, you can always go underneath, buff, have them to check, because sometimes they're like, oh, they're too scratchy, they're too crisp on the ends. You can always buff that away, but that can also lead to it being rounded off. So just remember that when you're buffing, sometimes you may not want to buff too much underneath. So I'm going to go up to that cuticle area, buff. Feel, make sure throughout your filing process, your whole filing process, not just here, you're feeling, because sometimes things that you may not be able to see, but you can catch if you feel it. So. And these are just regular orange buffers. I got these from a local nail supply store. Check the nail supply stores near you because, yeah, most of them are supposed to be for licensed professionals. Sometimes they do let enthusiasts in, so you can get nail products for a discount there. So. Okay. All right, and that is the end of our filing and shaping portion of the volume series. All right, y'all, so in volume 3, I hope that you learned some new techniques for your shaping and filing of acrylic nails.